For those interested in Hermetic training, please check out the link to the online group Seshen Circle, Blue Bell Hill below. Thank you so much. Now begins the podcast.
Death is their fate, the gift of Iluvatar, which, as time wears, even the powers shall envy. Welcome back. Okay, welcome to the Broderick Wallace channel, and I am very pleased on this summer solstice to have another guest from the Bardonian tradition, Mr. Crystalf Maibach. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you for inviting me in. Well, it's warm, it's summer solstice, but apart from that, great, thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Yep, it's a magical time. It's a high point. Right, so to my magical diary where I have the questions. So we'll start with the traditional question for the podcast, which is, Crystalf, when did you first discover that magic is a real thing?
That's an original question that has never been asked to me, and I would probably reply with another question. What do you mean in that case with magic? Because there are different ideas what magic could mean, and what it could mean to have a real deal. Yeah? Mm, let me start with two different definitions, because when you have magic, you typically think of doing spells to change the exterior of you, correct? Huh? And then you have the more mystical tradition who thinks that magic means that it's about changing the interior. Um, and most of my approaches started with changing the interior, even when, as a young man, I always were looking for changing the exterior. When most people start with magic, I think there's a lot of ego involved. Yeah, like being cool, having the possibility to change everything according to your liking and so on. And to see to really realize what I was doing was changing something, just by magic. I think that was quite late, few years after starting with Hermetics. But when we come to exploring your inner landscapes and exploring the universe, or just exploring yourself, I always come back to the same example in my life. When I was around 20 years old, I was having this bad argument. Some of you who have read my interviews probably know that, with a person very dear to me, and I was hurting her, and I won the argument. Yeah, I won, and I came back to my flat, and I thought, okay, if I go on like this, you're going to be a total asshole. And then I decided to change something, and this decision was the first conscious magical decision. And this is why I found, and this changed something. This changed a lot. I think most people around me wouldn't say that I was changed, that I've changed into an asshole. I hope. So I would never start with experiences from a very early youth, because that was conscious. That was based on a decision. And everything I experienced before was based on the unconscious. So forms of mental travel, meeting with nature spirits. Maybe I had such things, maybe not. But for me, it doesn't matter anymore, because all the magic that changed everything for me started with that one conscious decision to change myself, and everything resulted more or less from that. Even when I was looking for magic instruction before that, and even when I was doing magical practices after that, I think the turning point and the first act of conscious changing of reality was that simple decision not to become the asshole I could have become, maybe, without that. And so for me, that's a very important point. Yeah. Yeah. And what's one of the most interesting magical things that happened in my life? I guess one day, this was funny. One day I was with my now wife in vacation, and we were sitting in a room, and she was looking for for her red dress, and she thought that she had brought that with her, and obviously she forgot that, and there was nowhere to be found. And then she was looking for something else, and while she was looking, and we only had this one cup. I like when you're on vacation, yeah, you don't have a big room, you have this one, how it's called, a cupboard. Um, and then I was doing the spell while she wasn't looking, and told her, please open the cupboard again. And she opened it, and there, right in front of her, was this red dress, this kind of materialization. This was fun. This was a very fun example. And so yeah, for all those who listen, magic is possible. And the problem with magic is not that it's not functioning, but that it's functioning, that it's working. And this is, you said that I'm coming from the Bardonian tradition, and this is why I appreciate the very thorough study that Bardon presents so much, because magic does work. And by proper preparation, you can bring it to a constructive end. And I've met a lot of people who, by pure experimentation, turned out to have serious problems, not because the magic didn't work and they throw it all away and said that's bullshit, but because it was working. Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. You know, the problem is not that it doesn't work. The problem is potentially that it does work.
Yes.
So if your character, your internal balance is askew, that's what's going to be channeled into the, you know, the will, the desire. It can get pretty tricky fast, can't it? I suppose the idea is that you start off with this set of assumptions of what you want, And when you talked about being in your 20s, it reminded me, you discover Aleister Crowley and he's traveling all over the world, just being a complete asshole. And that's just really appealing, when you follow the very difficult instructions from Franz Bardon, whether it's on your own or in a group or whatever. The idea of what you want begins to change, and hopefully that diminishes the potential for getting into hot water.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. A very romantic answer to the question as well. Inspired by love and a red dress. That's really nice. Okay. I'll move on to the next question. I see you have previously traveled to Franz Bardon's hometown, Opava, in the Czech Republic. Do you have any insights or stories you could share concerning your visit?
Oh, well, how much time do we have?
As long as you want. As long as you want.
Yeah, it was a wonderful time when I was traveling to Prague, to Opava, and this is mostly I have to thank my very dear and beloved friends Astrid and Matthew, who he greeted me with open arms, and gave me a wonderful time, and did everything to show me the Czech Republic and great places, and a wonderful friendship developed from that, and I really much hope to see them again soon. So yeah, the first thing about Czech Republic is that I think it's full of wonderful people. I really like that country. I like the whole atmosphere of it, and the architecture. Coming to another country is always very, or your experiences in this other country are always very dependent on where you're from. And when coming from Germany, like I do, as some people might recognize from my accent, you're used to that everything is quite in order. Yeah, Germans love to have everything in
We've
order.
heard.
And just like some British, our gardens are very much flat. Like the British gentleman who's cutting the grass with a needle teeth. How it's called? Not needle teeth. How is this called?
Scissors.
Scissors. Yeah, thank you. British are cutting the grass with scissors, I've heard. And it's the same with us in Germany. And when you come to Czech Republic, you see a country that hasn't suffered a world war, that has, in a way, like everything was bombed down, and they have this. It's not so. It's not so. The architecture is not everywhere. It's everything new. They had a completely different history, and when they was in the eastern parts of Europe, and it's totally interesting because this country is so near to Germany, and it has such a different appeal. The culture is different, even if we share a lot of things, and this was for me kind of the living history. Yeah, you see in Czech Republic how Germany could have been, in the good and the bad. Yeah, they had completely different challenges in the last 70 years, and for me, that's always quite appealing and interesting um, to see that. And then you come to with the intention to visit a country giving birth to this Hermetic magician, Franz Bardon, who's the inspiration for my personal journey. And I want to make one thing clear at this point, yeah, dear listeners. I don't consider myself a Bardonian because that sounds a little bit like Christian. Yeah, Bardon wasn't some kind of messiah to me. He has written some great books. His system is awesome for me. I think it's the most thorough system out there. But how he as a person was, I have no clue. Yeah, you like some people, you don't like some people. Yeah, he was a child of his time. So just to make this clear, and he's not some kind of new Jesus like for some other Bardonian. The point is, yeah, let's come to the point. Because before I lose my listeners, let's come to the point. What can I share? When you come to Czech Republic, you can see a country that's full of Hermetic treasures, and that has a very unique and special history, and it's full of old buildings, castles, towns that are full of Hermetic symbology. And this is a big, great adventure for anyone coming to that place. You just walk through the cities and you can look left and right and see Hermetic pictures, alchemical pictures, magical pictures. And you just have to open up your eyes to see how the whole culture, the architecture is connected with Hermeticism. To come into Bardon's grave itself was kind of important for me, yeah, to see that grave. And Opava is a cute little town, indeed, but the true treasures are to be found around in the whole Czech Republic. And if I want to recommend something to you who travel, yeah, take a look at the Bardon's grave. Don't be too obvious about that because the people in Czech Republic don't know Franz Bardon. But take your time and visit some very special places. I can recommend a show from Astrid. You can find on Mixcloud where she described the several Hermetic
So
places.
we've got the Rudolph II, the visit from John Dee. It just goes way back. It's just a magical country in that respect.
Indeed. Yeah, you can start with Prague, but you can go to Kuzna Hora and several other places.
Yeah. Some of the members of Seshen, the group that I belong to, recently made a visit there, and there were lots of photographs of an underground alchemical laboratory. It's quite,
Yes.
apparently this was just discovered, perhaps recently, and the mind boggles what may have been, going on underneath the houses in this, underground, chamber.
I think, if I could remember correctly, I went there with Astrid first. She showed me, and Martin Fawkes, who's leading Seshen, if I'm not wrong, he discovered it recently on Facebook on my page, and so he decided to go there. And yeah, that's a quite magical place. And this is interesting, connected to Franz Bardon. Yeah, that what makes him or so connected with this tradition is that he's living in an atmosphere that, if you take the right look, is full of hermetics, and there's everywhere the proof of it. Everything that was bombed down in Germany still is there, and you can go there. And he was more or less imbued with that tradition, I think, when he grew up and took a simple look left and right. And this laboratory indeed is very interesting.
So in a way that, the ground was, ripe for an hermeticists to emerge from this country. It's not surprising.
Yes, Yes, and not only him. There are several other Hermeticists that were living in that country and were in several groups where he belonged to. Um, and they still maintain a quite vivid magical tradition, hermetical tradition. The funny thing is that as far as the actual hermetic tradition told me that Franz Bardon isn't so important in Czech Republic like he is in, for example, Germany or the States. Especially in Germany, he's very well known among esotericists, and but in Czech Republic, other hermeticists are more common, and it's also funny that he's always considered a white magician, and in Czech Republic he was always considered a black magician.
Really? Oh,
Really, probably because he was interested in practical magic, and a lot of the early hermeticists in Czech Republic seems to be Martinists and Theosophists who have, in general, a critical view on magic. And he was always very practical oriented, and also he seems to be, as you can read in several German books, he was very involved in with the Fraternitas Saturni, or he used their material extensively, at least according to his own account, that he practiced a lot with his students from the magical letters from the Fraternitas Saturni, and I think that didn't make him popular on his peers.
it does sound a bit grim, this, fraternity of Saturn. Does have a kind of, black tinged edge to it. Does sound very mysterious.
Yeah, well, the Brotherhood of Saturn is indeed an interesting topic, but if we go into that, I think we need another show. We can do that for.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, anytime. Yeah. Okay. We'll move on to the next question, which is basically why Bardon. So, what was the impetus for you in deciding to undergo the training as laid out in Initiation into Hermetics? What was the trigger that convinced you of its veracity?
Well, I read it, and it seemed to be logical to me in the first place. I was reading esoteric books before, and I started when I was 14 with a satanic heaven, the Satan symbol in German, a very funny little book about black magic, and it started with the first thing you have to do is make your own wand. And I always wondered, why do I need a wand where I don't have magical powers? So it didn't make sense to me, and I stumbled upon witches Wicca books, and they more or less had the same approach. Yeah, you can do meditation too, but the important thing is have the wand, have the athame, have the cauldron, and so on. Yeah, and collect herbs. And I was always like, yeah, but I have no magical powers, so why should I? It's um and when I was and then I stumbled upon Diane Fortune and Psychic Self-Defense, and she had at least the idea that the magician should have magical powers. So this was nice. Um, and then a Wiccan witch, recommended to me Franz Bardon. And so I went to the library at the university, took the book and reading it, and was immediately stunned. Mm, Simply because of the reason, he obviously had a system, not just some random exercises. And there are a lot of magical books out there with random exercises. Just do this and try this and try this and try this. And you don't know why are you doing this now? They all start with grounding. Why should I do grounding in the first place? Yeah, they have a lot of theories, but Bardon does not start with some preoccupied or biased cosmology. Yeah, he doesn't start with that. He doesn't say, okay, you need to ground yourself and make a magical circle. These aren't the questions. The first question is what's happening in yourself. Yeah, start with your thoughts. Yeah, because that's the thing that is bothering you all the time. And when you start with your thoughts and you start to observe them, you can then concentrate on one of them. And when you concentrate of one of them and then take this away, you still can keep to be concentrated, but on the non-thinking, or in the soul the first step of a soul schooling.
Soulmate.
Um, you're looking what's happening inside of you, and this simply makes sense. Yeah, because you don't need to study a ton of books first to understand what's happening. When you to be honest, when you start with Golden Dawn magic, yeah, and you only to understand the little banishing pentagram ritual, yeah, you first need to study theology more or less, yeah, if you really want to understand who's Michael, who's Raphael, and so on and so on and so on. People don't do that. They simply follow the instructions, because in fantasy books, sorcerers also simply like kind of learn their spells from the spell cards, and then it works. But the assumption in that case is not the magician has the power, but the spell has the power.
Yeah.
And I wasn't interested in that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an
Not
interesting point. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
The magician has the power, not necessarily the spell. You begin with inner cultivation or even inner recognition. You basically cut out all the crap that comes later once you've tackled the inner processes and cultivated perhaps that power that you were alluding to at the beginning.
yes. First, you need to have your own power, and then you might tap other powers. But most magic systems do it just the other way around. They do rituals for they assume that they have powers. Yeah.
I saw a funny. I watched a podcast the other day, and no disrespect to the guy, it just was funny. He said, "Who follows all the instructions from Franz Bardon anyway? A psychopath?"
No, it's so easy. And
Yeah.
honestly, I mean, why did I was came to the conclusion that it's true, yeah, and that is the right path. I started more or less with Franz Bardon, and then I was eluded by all the romantic other paths. I worked myself through the whole Golden Dawn system, and skipped more or less Franz. And I remember one day when I was doing the Greater Pentagram ritual, yeah, and was invoking the names and the Hinoric formulas, and I was like, yeah, and I invoked the element of fire, and I was standing there for I don't know minutes after minutes, and I was standing there, and why am I doing this with balanced ideas? I could have simply called it up. And this was one of the first, yeah, but I wasn't convinced yet. So I did the Chaos Magica basis program also, so 6 months of stuff, and two or three other systems with the EOTO, and I worked myself through at least 4 or 5 magical systems.
Mm.
And then I remember I was doing a meditation called eternal meditation, whatever. And while doing this, it was kind of really a form of enlightened moment. I was like, what am I doing here? What did I always wanted to do? What was always my favorite? Yeah, I was always loving Bardon system. So why am I not doing it? And at that point, I simply stopped all the other practices I was doing because I realized they were all not that what really convinced me. I liked them. I found them funny, joyous even, but they didn't convince me. And then I started Franz Bardon's book anew, completely anew from step one. And so thorough as I really wanted to do. And since then, I was simply walking that path. And if you really walk that path, it doesn't take long. Yes, you have to practice and you have to go walk that path, but it does not mean that you have to be a psychopath to do it. Yeah, but to this other person, let's be honest. Yeah, you need 3 years in Germany for a normal study to become a working person. Yeah, you need to study 5 to 6 years to get a university degree, full time. And people think with 5 minutes a day, if they even study so much, yeah, doing magical whatever, they can become master of reality and simply cast spells and standing on their high towers, let lightning rain down their enemies.
That is a very good point. And you're almost touching on the next question, which is about the meditation, the discipline. So I'll ask that one now. The Hermetics, as taught by Franz Bardon, seem to be a secret hidden in plain sight, hidden via its internal difficulty. Bardon's name pops up rarely in popular content, but he is seldom properly understood. Would you agree that the barriers to understanding his work are the protracted demands of a regular daily meditative practice and a consistent Stoic discipline?
Yeah, why doesn't really pop up cool content?
I
Probably
guess what I'm saying is does the sheer difficulty keep Bardon occulted, hidden?
he
Is,
is,
the
but
discipline?
no, no. First of all, it is difficult. It's the most easiest way I've ever encountered, because if you simply follow the instruction, every exercise is the logical follow-up of the exercise you already mastered. Yeah, the only thing you have to do is don't be biased. Yeah, uh, emptiness of mind isn't samadhi, for example. People are looking for samadhi, but it's not. Yeah, it's emptiness of mind, and he described what it is. So this is the difficulty, that people think they already know what he's talking about. They should simply follow his instructions, and it's very easy. Yeah, you just simply do an exercise, and the next exercise is the logical next step. And this is why I never, in a way, learned something new. I just became conscious of things that I was already doing. And my practice of Franz Bardon led me to the very strong conviction that magic is nothing else than doing things consciously that we are doing anyway, every day. Every every man, every woman is a magician most of the time, or has the potential. They they have Everybody has kind of magic experiences. The only thing that magician do is does it consciously. He's a professional, and that leads me to the answer of your question. I have written it down also. Uh, the regular daily meditative practice. Yes, this is the key point. If you don't practice, do not progress. And let's be honest, magic is nothing less than the control about reality. And again, how can you hope to control reality and your own reality when you're not willing to put time into it? You go to work 8 hours a day to become an expert, but you're not willing to do at least an hour of meditation in the morning during your training. Honestly, I can't help you. Then do some fancy rituals and hope that the ritual will do the work for you, but you never know because you are not clairvoyant, you're not clairsentient, you're not clairaudible, because you don't know what you're doing. You're just hoping because someone told you, this is a powerful ritual. Maybe, maybe not. So Franz Bardon is hidden in plain sight. Yeah, in the Anglophone world, indeed. This is more or less a cultural barrier because I don't know for what reason exactly, but since the 1970s, everything in the English or American occult scene seems to be about Gold Dawn and the following traditions. The Wicca is based on Golden Dawn, Crowley based on Golden Dawn, and so I have read books where the Golden Dawn is called the Western magical tradition, TM trademark, and that's not. That's simply not true. That's a development, but this is so dominant that, especially in the Anglophone world, other authors that are very popular on the continent, like Franz Bardon is in Germany, doesn't have the impact they could have. And the other thing, of course, is, as I just said, the demand for regular training to advance. Again, depends on what you want. Do you want to have a fancy robe and a fancy wand and a fancy ritual? Or do you really want to transform yourself, self-conscious magician? Sounds aggressive, but I think that's very much what this is about. Sorry for all the people who are offended now. I discussed that.
They need to toughen up anyway. You people on the internet, you need to toughen up. Well, I think there's something, I don't know, there's almost something, I don't know, working class comes to mind as the first word. It is a stripped down, cut out the crap. Let's get down to the real stuff. Your mind, your consciousness, your ability to fix your concentration, your ability to clear thoughts or concentrate on, one thought, etc. All of these skills that you begin with, they change you internally. And I really like the analogy I've explored in a previous video of you need to polish your own mirror in a way. Your ability to perceive, see whatever you're going to come up against in the other realms, if you want to use that analogy. It's reflected in your own mirror. It's all is one, right? So the more you train your ability to perceive and your discipline to fix or to clear, all these things in conjunction, the more of a truer experience you will receive of any kind of vision or mystical dream or all these kind of things. They will become purer through your purification, this training.
Indeed. And it brings the experience inside. You see, the Bardon was living in a time when magic was illegal, when you could literally get killed for being a magician. And so it simply cut out all the things that make magic romantic and more or less, a ritual is fun. I totally understand that. You're doing a great Golden Dawn ritual is really fun. I love to do that. But the real magic is happening here, and it doesn't matter what you do on the outside.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, we've talked about discipline there. We'll move it into morality here with the next question, which is, how important is the soul mirror work? why is morality such a strong factor within the training? Can you still progress some way with mixed intentions?
I don't like morality. This word is that's not a nice word, yeah, because morality is always implies that someone else set up some standards and you have to stick to them. Like God, Moses came down from the mountain and told, you have to follow this, and if you don't follow this, you're going to hell. Yeah, and that's not what it's about. Bardon, in his first book, IH, makes it very clear that the student self should decide what's wrong, what's right, what are his good um, characteristics and his bad characteristics. He decides out of his or her, experience. Yeah, and so this has nothing to do with morality. If you decide for yourself that that having a wife and two concubines is a great thing for you, yeah, and you really are not doing something wrong, and you feel nothing, and it doesn't hinder you, okay, that's your decision. Yeah? Or not because God said you shall not look at another woman when you're married. It doesn't have to hinder you, but you should, and that's the important thing. Consider yourself. What am I doing? Yeah. When I lie to this other person, yeah, then obviously, because if I would tell her the truth, she would be hurt, and you still think that's right, then you're probably not very true to yourself. So some morality rules does have a true core, obviously. Yeah. But in the end, the decision is yours or the student's ones. You decide.
Yeah,
Um,
it
and
is. Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's like, how far can you get with this training? Well, if you're evil, will you reach some kind of ceiling where you can't progress any further? I guess.
yes, yes, definitely. If you don't do the Somara properly, then you're you will get stuck because out of the simple reason that you don't know yourself. Yeah. So what is Somara? Somara is simply, who am I? What are the blocks inside the blockades? Blocks inside. Is this correct English? The challenges inside of me. Why am I getting angry at that or this thing? Why am I getting sad about this or that? And what does that mean? That means that some exterior influences have the ability to influence my behavior. When I'm getting angry all the time when I read about some political decision, then obviously something is inside me that got triggered by that. Yeah? That does not mean that getting angry is the problem, or that you get triggered. Yeah,
Yeah.
you need to be capable of getting angry. Yeah, when you are defending your family, uh, when you get attacked, you need anger to get the adrenaline and to be the toughness to fight. Yeah, you need the anger. Anger is important. Everything that in human being is correct and important. It needs to be there. But as soon as you lose control of it, you walk into an extreme, and then the Somara is not working. As soon as you enter the extreme, you lose the control of it. Yeah. And then you can't progress because you're obviously not balanced. And then you can't go on. At least step 6 is the barrier. to enter the Akasha is only possible when you have really, really, really found your inner balance and be very honest to you when you have made a lot of tears about the things that happened in your life, and you can progress to step 6 and enter the Akasha. Before that, Akasha won't let you.
Mm. I like the emphasis on control, and I will say that when you meet, obviously there's this sort of rule of respect that when you meet fellow practitioners who are further along, they won't tell you what step they're on, but you can kind of feel through the self-control that they exude. You can feel that they're further on, and there is a natural respect there. But I did find in the beginning that there is this problem within the self whereby you feel that they're not being as fully human as you are. I don't know if you've ever encountered this, but I had to sort of come to terms with this, that upon this path with the increased control, there is a kind of sacrifice, perhaps slightly of a certain casual humanness. These higher practitioners are kind of aloof in a good way. It's a tricky one. Obviously, that might not tally with your experience, but becoming less human in a good way, perhaps.
I would say exact opposite. I'd say the more you progress, the more human you become.
Okay.
Yeah, the more, because you're embracing your humanity. You're not there isn't something in yourself that you doesn't like anymore. You accept every part of yourself. Yeah, even the bad ones. Yeah, you simply don't
Yep.
let yourself fall into the extremes. It's like a pendulum. Yeah, a good pendulum is swinging steadily. It never goes like this and this. Yeah, but when you have the steady swinging, then it's okay to, let's keep with example, to be angry sometimes, to be sad sometimes, because it's human. As long as you're a human being, you will be in that states. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
normal. It's okay, but they are not capable of controlling you anymore. You maybe even you don't really control them, but they don't control you. You're in control of yourself. That's the control. Yeah, that you're not longer capable of getting controlled by your emotions. Yeah, you experience them, you love them, you accept them, but you are free of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate your pushback there. That's something that I will meditate on, if you like. And I guess this control is an ability to assume whatever role you deem appropriate in the moment. That could be another way of looking at it. But we'll move on now to
Yes.
the idea of outside forces. We've talked a lot about the inner world. So, did you ever get the impression that one is guided and helped by higher forces, perhaps a guardian angel or such like? The moment one commits to the path in a serious and consistent manner, or is it truer to say that a veil of perception is lifted to reveal this?
Yes. Yes. Yes, you are. I think that we're guided. And I like the idea of a guardian angel, but um, that we have a kind of being that we experience as kind of being outside of us. But maybe it's just like the way we perceive it. Um, it's maybe it's a part of us, maybe it's a kind of symbiosis. Um, but yes, I think we are guided and helped as soon as we let ourselves being guided. Yeah? Coming back to the soul mirror.
Hmm.
As soon as you overcome the ego and think that, yeah, you're all right, or on the other hand, it's also ego when you say, "Oh, I'm so bad. I'm a bad person." When you stop judging, but accepting what you are and who you are, and letting go of all those judgments about yourself, then you're giving space for the higher forces to talk to you, because before that you're so busy with yourself that you won't listen. Yeah, and this is this veil of perception. That's the veil of our thoughts and of our self-centeredness. Yeah, so all the time we are thinking about what's right and what's wrong, and what other people might think and what you might think about yourself. And emptiness of mind is more or less the state of stopping to judge, of the great. Bardon says it's the great now. Simply be at this moment.
Mm.
Point.
Perhaps that is one of the advantages, or even the perhaps it was an intention. I don't know, of Bardon, that if you spend a lot of time in vacancy of mind, you might come into contact with a different state of mind, and if your mirror is correctly polished, you may understand that to be an aspect of yourself. I mean, it is a tricky question. I do feel that it's going to take the opportunity to reach down to you if you're reaching up in a way, and perhaps the vacancy of mind is a good tool for that.
Yeah, or you simply have to empty your cup. Imagine your mind as a cup. It was totally busy. It was full. Yeah, because you're thinking all the time. And this is why the first exercise in the first book is the best exercise ever. Yeah, to recognize what you're thinking, or that you are thinking. We are thinking all the time, and we think that we know what we are thinking. And with the first exercise of the first book, we start to properly understand what we are thinking, and then we can start to listen to our thoughts, and then we can start to understand that obviously not all of our thoughts are coming from us, because after a while, landing the difference.
Mm.
And this exercise is so important for contacting the higher forces, for clairaudition, even for clairvoyance, for mental travel. You can't do mental travel if you haven't done first exercise, first book properly.
Absolutely. And on the subject of stillness and pausing, we'll take a short break here before we continue. So for the viewer, hang around. We shall carry on, hopefully for another hour or so. So let's do that. Right, we are recording. So on to the next question, which is about results, really. So what begins to happen to a human being upon the Hermetic path? What changes can the serious practitioner expect to encounter within him or herself in the early stages? I guess we've kind of covered that already, but is there anything extra, do you think, we could explore there?
Yeah, we covered it. It's greater consciousness of yourself.
Yeah, I think we've covered that, really, haven't we? The
But
changes.
let me add one thing, because we didn't talk about the body yet. We were talking about the mind and the soul, and with the body, Bardon writes it, and I have to agree with that. You feel greater youth when you're doing it correctly. Yeah. More vivid, more alive, and successful in life. With success, I mean a greater easiness in everything you do. It's not longer a Bardon practitioner who claims to be in step 4 and struggles with his job and feels under himself under pressure is definitely doing something wrong. After step 3, you should be very clear about what's your way, what you're doing, and do that. And all the exercises, including the work with the wish force, I'm not sure if that's a correct English word, with the wish force and the life force, should lead you to that stage. And this is why I always tell my students that when you complete step 3, you can, by a full right, consider yourself a magician. Okay, covered. Thank you. Next question.
Oh, sure. Yeah, with the increased control, you should, become more disciplined in your work, your plans. The route forward should be clear. Even when encountered with difficulty, there should be, plans should be beginning to bloom. Yeah. Right. Okay. Do you think that ancient Egypt, sorry, one of my favorite subjects, here we go again, back to Egypt. Do you think ancient Egypt was or is the cradle of all wisdom, as Franz Bardon wrote in the epilogue of his book, Initiation into Hermetics? How important is ancient Egypt to you?
That's obviously total. That's the romanticism of the late 19th century and is based on Blavatsky's idea in Unveiled Isis. Of course, ancient Egypt was very important, for us in the West. Why? Because the Hermetic tradition stems from a combination of Egyptian magic, Neoplatonic Greek or Platonic Greek philosophy, and Christianity. And Egypt is one of the places where every initiated magician in the Greek world needed to travel. But this is, in my opinion, less about Egypt. It's about the act of traveling. There are simply several stages that a magician needs to undergo to be considered as a magician, and one of those things is to travel to a faraway place, get initiated there, and come back. And this used to be in the Greek word Egypt. So Egypt used to have a strong magical tradition. That's true, indeed. And they had a great culture, indeed. It wasn't by far the only place on Earth. Ancient China also has a great magical tradition. Ancient India used to have great magic tradition. The Greeks themselves have interesting and very important philosophical ideas. But for us in the West, Egypt is, in our tradition, place where the philosophers went, got back, and were initiated. So for us, yes, it's a very special magical place, but not the cradle of all wisdom. Yeah, that's too strong. And for me personally, I'm an Hermetic. Yeah, and an ancient historian, by the way, for those who didn't know. And my PhD project was about Neoplatonic magicians in ancient Greek. And so Egypt is one of the birthplaces of Hermeticism, of the Hermetics, of Hermeticism. So it's very important, but not necessarily ancient Egypt. So for me personally, I think that we are very, 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 very far away today from what happened in ancient Egypt, where it's standing for, and it's for a modern magician who tries to reconnect to the old ways. The biggest question is, which old ways? Is for me, Jupiter more connected with myself than the Chinese Yu the Great? Why? Yeah. Let's be honest. Most of us have their connection with the Christian culture, and a Christian European culture. Yeah. And some of us try to reconnect, let's say, with the Celtic ways we don't know anything about. With the Nordic ways we only know about from Christian sources in a Christianized version. And so choose your gods as they fit, but let's be honest, I think most of us have more connection with Gnosticism and with the idea of at least one source that we have with ancient Egypt or ancient Celtic, Nordic tribe shamanism.
It's very difficult not to be eclectic in this modern age, and obviously we know that Franz Bardon's training is something like a net that can overlay any religion or system. It's able to draw it almost like a Lego piece. You can just click it onto whatever religion you come from.
And that's the interesting thing, that Bardon's training isn't connected to one religion. Even his 4 elements you could replace with other systems. The 4 elements aren't real. Like the Kabbalah isn't real. Spheres aren't real. It's a map. A map is not reality. It's a symbolization of reality to better navigate into the unknown. When you don't have a map in the woods, on the mountains, or somewhere, you are getting lost. And when you have a map, you have no description of reality. You have a picture of reality. And that's what the 4 elements are. That's what the Kabbalah is. It's a picture of reality. It's a map to better navigate in the invisible worlds. And Bardon's system does not need that map. This 4 elements could place it. It's about the systematics, like in the mental, like I said, with the mental system. That first you observe your thoughts. When you are capable of really observing it and realizing what's happening inside me, I can concentrate on one of them. Then I can take it away, giving space, clearing the cup for anything else. Then I have the capability of concentrating on my senses, because before that I can't really see because I'm so busy with my thoughts. With my students, I would like to use the analogy: if there would be a unicorn on the grass, you wouldn't see it because your mind would say it's a horse, because that's what you're taught. As soon as we see anything in our reality, we start to put them into boxes. Every sensation is put into boxes. And this is why we sometimes doesn't even perceive other people, or maybe you have experienced that too. Have you seen this? No, I was so busy with something else, with thinking. And so most people wouldn't see a unicorn, perceive the unicorn if they would see one. they would see horse. Put the
Yeah.
thing to the box horse and forget about that. And this is why visualization comes after vacancy of mind, because only then you have the capability of filling that empty space now with a new picture,
Yeah,
and
that's a good
and
point.
so on.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, it's a good point. Personal experiences, whether in the countryside or whatever, they've had to take a specific, or they have taken a specific form. But when introducing, say, an element from ancient Egypt or whatever, it still fits, or whatever is behind those images, it still responds to a different colored map. And I'm sure most people, would agree with this. In a way, it's like you have to kind of choose something to focus on at times, but as you progress, you become more universal. You're reaching for what's behind the images more and more. And my teacher did explain this to me, actually. I have found that to be true. As time progresses, you do become more universal. You are searching for the underlying powers, but you understand that you need it all. And talking of your interest in ancient Greek, has your knowledge of ancient Greek yielded any further perceptions or understandings within the related Hermetic literature?
Yes, that might sound arrogant now, but I think without knowing ancient Greek, you can't only understand a very small portion of Hermetic literature, even in the translations. Because so much is founded on the way mm, the way a language is made up, and this is not only true in Hermetics. Yeah, it's also if you really want to understand the Lord of the Rings. I think we come to that maybe later. You need to read it in English. Yeah, because there are two ways of English. Yeah, this business English everybody talks, which is quite simple, a simple language, and then we have the English of Professor J.R.R. Tolkien, who was a genius with his language, and it's such a beautiful language. And the same, and now we have in Hermeticism that 99% of the original texts are written in ancient Greek. And to really understand the impetus of what is said, you does not need to read the original, but if you can read, it deepens your understanding tremendously.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. This might be the moment to ask, how much do you value the Corpus Hermeticum and the Emerald Tablets, Emerald Tablet, as supplements to initiation into Hermetics? Are they important to you?
oh, this is two very different texts. The Corpus Hermeticum is more or less the Bible of Hermetics, isn't it? Yeah? And the Emerald Tablet is kind of what's the Glaubensbekenntnis? This is what I believe, more or less. Yeah. The Emerald Tablet, I think, is tremendously important because it really contains the whole truth of the world and the cosmology of Hermetic development. The Emerald Tablet is something you should more or less meditate on a regular basis for the rest of your life. The Corpus Hermeticum sometimes is a little bit obscure, a little bit ancient, and but I especially like the Poimandres, the first book. It's a great one. The second book is boring, but everything has every book has its worth. But they are not. They are very important supplements to IIH to understand where everything is coming from. Because practice is the most important thing, but to understand what you're practicing, corpus hermeticum is helpful if you have a good translation. Yeah, read Plato. Yeah, Plato is worth reading. You can't read it like a book, like you read a novel or something, but it's worth it. And as such, even if the old times are over, it's never a bad thing to remember where you're coming from.
Oh, definitely. I would wholeheartedly agree there. I mean, anyone who's, on the Hermetic path, if you haven't read the Corpus Hermeticum and the Emerald Tablet, you should. There's more there than you think. It's obviously it's old and ancient and dusty in places, but sometimes it's peculiar. I can't think of the right word. It's
Julia.
peculiarly modern. Sometimes it just grabs you right here and now, like this is always relevant. Yeah. But talking of the sorry, go on.
May I add one thing, maybe? I want to add ancient Greek. Again, you don't need it, but we are Hermetics, and Hermetics are considered to be very studious, and so there are typically 5 languages that you should study and at least understand a little bit, and this to study Hermetic literature, and this is German, French, Italian, Latin, and Ancient Greek. Yeah, these are the 5 classical languages, and if you are at least capable of understanding a few things and the very important phrases, you can delve into a pool of knowledge and deep meditations that is eternal, more or less. That's really eternal. So I strongly recommend that. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, and talking of this kind of European Christianity, this definitely relates as we now move on to the Lord of the Rings. Deep breath for this question. I see you are a big fan of the Lord of the Rings. Who isn't? If you're not, what's wrong with you? I see a parallel within this work of literature with Bardon's training and ideals. The wizard Gandalf's abilities are far removed from any flamboyant display and take on a much more subtle undercurrent throughout a story whose morality and compassion are central. Would you agree? And how has Tolkien's work affected your life and practice?
Now you're talking with a total Tolkien nerd. While I was doing my PhD, my friends who were also writing their PhD always complained that I know Tolkien better than my PhD study. Which I'm not sure if it really was a compliment. But yes. Yeah. Well, of course it has parallels. Because as I said, Bardon's training is, I think, very much connected with these ancient shamanic ideals. It's uh, it's about getting connected with the forces of nature, with the forces inside of yourself, to travel to another planes and meet with the spirits, to get control with the spirits of nature. When you're breathing the elements, you could also say you're getting contact with the nature spirits. And I find Bardon's way very shamanic, very shamanic. Yes, you're not hitting the drum, but that's not what consists a shaman, that he's hitting a drum. What consists a shaman is that he's capable of connecting with the other worlds. That's what's making magician a magician. And is that he's in a way taking up responsibility for his tribe. If you do magic just for yourself, so be it. Okay. But a magician in human society for thousands of years had a mission, yeah, to be the one who's connecting the visible with the invisible worlds, who is the supporter when the people did not understand what was happening around them, to deal with the spirits, to deal with the evil around them. And we have lost that today, because the churches first took on that mission. A priest, a real Catholic priest, used to be a magician, or should at least take up that responsibility. And the church had the idea, when because every priest has got with his initiation the capability of exercising the spirits. And that's what a magician used to. What were the mission of the magician? To be there for their community. But we have driven out evil out of everything. There isn't evil in this world. There are only people who have bad childhoods. But people aren't evil anymore. And even the church doesn't believe in the devil anymore. So might be difficult. And talking oh yeah, and one thing, and with most modern magics, it's very flamboyant, as you spelled it, or this ritualized approach. Yeah, like, I call upon you, element of fire, and I 5 pentagrams and Enochian names and whatever you want, and the fancy robe and the Great Temple. And when you watch D&D, fireballs from his eyes and lightning from his arse. Yeah, that's what consists a magician these times. Yeah, but
I think that's a quote from Braveheart, isn't it?
yes, it is. And Gandalf isn't like that. He's the shaman. He's traveling shaman, if you want so. His whole thing is about taking up responsibility for his society. He's fighting the great evil spirits of Sauron. He's aware that evil is there. That it's not everything is traumatized poor people who had bad childhoods. That people do decisions, and you can do one bad decision, 2 bad decisions, but sometimes there are evil people. And Tolkien recognizes that. And his Gandalf does not need great rituals. Yeah? He has internalized the power. The power is in him, and not like in the movies in the staff. The staff is a symbol for the power, but the staff does not have power. Is in the wizard, and
Absolutely.
he's a divine being. Yeah, and that's what Bardon is also. First book is all about, to get the reconnection with the divine, that you become yourself the divine being you're meant to be. That you remember yourself that you're divine, and I think that the Istari are the only true human beings if you take a comparison to this world, uh, in Middle Earth, because they have remembered the Maya, they have remembered that they are divine, and this is indeed very Bardonian. Remember that you are divine. Take up responsibility. Does not only think about yourself. Yeah, this is sorcery. It's not only about your advantage. And if you have read my other interviews, I think that if that you deplete your powers very much if you only do spell work for yourself. But if you take up responsibility, then you get access to other powers. And Bardon is telling exactly the same. Yeah. Um, then the Akasha will open for you, and you become more powerful than you can imagine. And that's uh, what Gandalf stands for. Yeah, Gandalf is the magician who has internalized the power, who knows how to live a decent life, who's loves a good wine, and he's very human in the way. Yeah, what I said, you don't become aloof, you become more human. Who's more human than Gandalf? He's not sitting somewhere and thinking himself something better. No, he's sitting in the tavern, drinking, having fun, smoking pipes, and living with the most simple people imaginable, the hobbits. He is really human, and nonetheless, he's very much connected with the divine and very ready to take up the responsibility when if and when the evil spirits are coming. And remember, when does he show his power? Not when he's fighting orcs. Then he takes up a sword. And the Hobbit, he makes a short display with the lightning flash. But more or less, when he's fighting living beings, he's taking up a sword and it's fireballs. Yeah, he's using his power when he's fighting another spirit, Balrog. Then you can see his magical display. So that's exactly what the shaman does. Yeah? A magician in the ancient times wasn't throwing fireballs. He was giving his prayers and his powers to his warriors so that they might fight better. He inspires them, but when he's fighting his own battles, when he's fighting the spirits.
Yeah, I think that's the best description of Gandalf I've ever heard. Actually, you you answered that more fully than I could have expected. Yeah, there's so much there, and I think there's something really powerful as well about Gandalf being on that bridge when he faces the Balrog, and utilizes that power that he draws down from Iluvatar. As you say, you very rarely see him draw upon those powers. But the idea of him being the Istari remembering where they came from, that's a very powerful statement. Yeah. Who is your favorite character from Middle Earth?
Saruman.
Oh, no. I thought it was going to be Gandalf.
Well, it should be,
Yeah.
but I think I like Saruman because he's so much the person I can't be, and sometimes you idolize those. I love that image. Yeah, being kind of super rich, living in a tower, and you know, ruling. This great image. I really love that guy, and I mean, he was played by Christopher Lee, and this adds to his sex appeal. um, Yeah, of course I love Gandalf, but you asked me what impact that did he had on my life, and I think he's very much some one of the ideas I always strived to be, and uh, because he was so important for my for this picture, like is similar to Obi-Wan Kenobi, the old one, Sir Alec Guinness. Um, those guys had very much impact on when I had to bring a picturize my goal. uh, I like to play games, I like to watch movies, I like to read books, but they always have to give me some inspiration on my path, and Gandalf is that inspiration, and so I feel very Gandalf in in a in a funny way.
Gandalf.
A Gandalfian, yes, yes, yes. So he a little bit falls out as my favorite character because that would mean I like myself. uh, Even I don't want to claim to be Gandalf, but he's so important for me, and so I really like Saruman in his struggle. Who he's the wizard who struggles, and I like that. Yeah, he's struggling with the real world, with the temptation of power and money, and he can have it all. He's so successful. Yeah, he's such a charming guy, and in the beginning, everybody loves him. Yeah, he's like the perfect wizard. He's like Merlin. Everybody loves Merlin, and in his society, and everybody adores him. And so he he lost connection a little bit, and I like that because Saruman shows how human we are. We all of us are. Your teacher, myself, every other initiated magician. We still are humans, and we shouldn't forget that till our last breath. Yeah, um, and this is why I like Saruman. And
Yeah. You know, talking of this does lead on to the next question perfectly, because you're sort of alluding there that evil is somehow alluring. So just I was wondering, because these things usually do come in parallel. You're German. I predict you love heavy metal. True or false? If you love Saruman, you got to love metal, right?
of course, I love heavy metal, but I like classic rock better.
Oh, tasteful.
So
Tasteful.
my favorite band is AC/DC, and but I also liked like Metallica and Slayer and other such things. But my favorite bands are also
Oh,
AC/DC
oh,
and
wonderful.
Manowar and Led
Oh,
Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones. And yesterday I visited a concert of the Hollywood Vampires, so Alice Cooper, Johnny Depp, and Joe Perry from Aerosmith.
oh,
Wonderful,
okay.
wonderful music, yeah? And they were giving a tribute to their dead friends from the rock and roll scene. Um, so yeah, true, it's true. I
True. Oh,
love
that's
heavy
good.
metal, but I'm not
You'll find
exclusively.
most people in the interested in this field, they do tend to be metalheads. I confess I am one too. My favorite band was Iron Maiden. For most of my, I think it still is really in my heart. Iron Maiden is my oldest friend. And Eddie is my oldest friend.
But it's
Okay, so
obvious. But it must be like that. I mean, look what the rappers sing about, or the hip hoppers. They sing about the most basic things: sex, food, cars, more sex, money.
yeah,
And you can't be a magician if that's what you're interested in exclusively. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I think
When you come to business, also a lot of business people, um, they are very much in sex, sex, safe living, and food, and simply improving better sex, better houses, greater houses, better food. And then they took pictures, put it on Instagram, and a few years later, they have even better sex because now they have a younger girl, even better food, and an even greater house. So you can spend your life with that. I don't want to judge anyone. Everybody shall live their lives according to their wishes, but I don't think that what's making a magician.
All right. Well, you won't get an argument from me. I don't care who I upset. I don't think there's much artistic merit in rap music. It's never appealed to me. I know it makes me sound like an old man, but it's just a noise. It's just intolerable. It's intolerable to my soul.
Whatever, but why are most magicians, I think, are more appeal to better music? Yeah, because they have a tendency to Blind Guardian, for example, who's singing this is exclusively about talking. Metal musicians love to play around with these mythological topics. AC/DC, not so really. I'm not really sure why I love AC/DC because they are singing more or less about women, alcohol. Yeah, but maybe they represent my bodily part.
It's the same as the Saruman thing. You know, you've got Saruman, you've got AC/DC, so you've got an outlet there. You can just role play that in your head and then remain serious. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll jump to a very deep question here. Moving to the highest of the high. Do you believe in a supreme God above or behind the multitude of gods with a small g? If so, do you think he, she, it can be known through any kind of relationship or mystic gnosis?
Wow.
Big question, really. Can
It-
can you
it's-
can a human being access God on any level?
yes, but it can't keep that. I believe in a supreme being. Let's not use the word God, not because I don't like that word, but for too many years, people have kind of imagined some old man in the clouds or someone who's responsible for what's happening to them. Yeah, and that's I don't think that. I think that, and I believe that there is a kind of supreme being, and we're kind of part of him, mirror of him. It's and and also I believe that there are gods, kind of powerful beings who put order to reality. Um, and there is this kind of all being who's outside there, and who gave us the freedom of will and the freedom to take up our own decisions. Um, and I think because we all suffer nonetheless. We do suffer. Um, Magical training reduces suffering, but in the end, we do suffer. And that might be the evil, if you want so, kind of the demiurge, yeah, devil. And what I found interesting when you read the Bible, that the the God there, the Jehovah, what did he do? He imprisoned us in a nice place called paradise, where we weren't able to see, we weren't able to perceive. We were kind of all happy, like in a big drug world. And then there was this being, and this being promised us, you can't be again like God. Yeah. And this was the snake. So for me, the snake isn't a representation of evil. It's the representation of God. it's more or less the snake and Jesus are very much alike. That there is always, sometimes from time to time, it seems to me that this kind of supreme being sends us some messenger and reminds us of what we are and who we are and what we can achieve. And for this reason, I also think that the symbol of Hermeticism is the Ouroboros, yeah, the snake that devours itself.
Oh, the Ouroboros or Ouroboros. Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
the
I'm with you now.
Caduceus.
I'm with you
Now the
now.
Caduceus is something else. The Ouroboros, yeah. The Caduceus is the Karikei and the Hermes staff, but yeah, the Ouroboros. And and no, that it seems. I think that the gods are what we call the rulers of spheres. They represent several aspects of reality. So as if reality was like a big puzzle, yeah, and we have a part and a blue part and a green part, and this is represented a little bit by the gods. So this is the part of my personal cosmology. Um, but the important thing is, yeah, I think that we can reach God. And this is what we call enlightenment. But we can't, and if you experience that, you feel that freedom. Yeah. So freedom, everything more or less, in my opinion, is about freedom, not about security. It's about freedom. And the only thing is you can't bring it back. Yeah. As soon as your consciousness returns to the normal state of being that you need to navigate in this world, you can't take it really back. You might remember, but you can't take it back because you need your normal consciousness like anchored here in this world. Um,
Absolutely. Mm.
but when I said earlier in our conversation that magical training isn't about learning something, but only about remembering what you're doing
Mm.
anyway. Then I think we are in truth a nice microcosmos. Yeah, because every human being is capable of creation. Yeah, thoughts does create, actions create, our speech create, and our just we are just talking and we are creating hopefully helpful content for our listeners. Um, and as such, we as human beings does represent parts of the all higher supreme being, and all human beings in their individuality. Everybody is in a way part of that. Even the evil ones, even the demiurge or the one who's maybe making this cage is part of the higher of the all. Because if it wouldn't be including the good and the bad, yeah, then it wouldn't be truly the infinite being.
Yeah, you wouldn't have choice. And I mean, I do wrestle with this. I mean, well, everyone does really. Anyone who puts their mind to those big questions, we wrestle with the well, with evil, and I guess we've got our answer there in Gandalf in a way. His actions are a kind of role model there, and yeah, it's a big question. You could do a whole show on that, and this idea of a divine emanation. I mean, this makes a lot of sense to me, even as someone who may describe themselves as pagan from a certain perspective. That divine emanation comes from somewhere. The all, and like you say, this creativity of God, if you want to call it that, exists within us as a microcosm. There is a root there. There is a tincture of God in every human being. As they say.
Yeah,
Um,
the Neoplatonists made the best, really the best description, like Plato or Proclus, and they was really intelligent people, and really this is why I like Neoplatonism. They were practical magicians and very intelligent and very and very philosophical um yeah, and I simply look out. This might sound simple, but everything, this whole creation, is so wonderful and so beautiful and so perfect. And I don't like this word, this English word, this German word Zufall. Wait, I have to Google it now. What what does mean Zufall of
Sure, take your time.
coincidence? Yeah, scientists sometimes say that that's coincidence, and
Oh, right.
honestly, coincidence is just a word to explain some things that they can't explain. So
Random chance. Just it's all random chance, just
yeah,
enjoy
too
your
red.
life now because it's obviously not. Obviously. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I do think I have this way of dealing with that, which is chaos and the weird. It's like chaos allows choices. Anything might happen. There is a weird that flows through the chaos that is trying to join things up. That's the way my head tries to come to terms with chance and destiny in a way. Uh, so we'll go from God to death, and I think it's important to raise these really big questions because this is it alludes to the grander reasons, if you like. So the big question: at your current position, what do you think happens to us after we die? What is death? And feel free to say I don't know. It's fine.
in the end, no. In the end, as long as I'm in this human body, I fear death. No matter what I've experienced as a magician. Bardon says the magician loses his fear of death because he has experienced what happened. Not true. Yeah, the body fears death, and I could. It's difficult because the magician shall be silent about his way and successes. Um, so let's say I have made experiences with death and dead people. So for my current position, I'm intellectually very, very, very sure that this is simply a transition.
Mm.
Um, that indeed there is no reason to fear death. Yeah, that but my body as the vehicle for navigating in this world is fearing, has a certain fear of that.
Yeah.
But this is coming, I'm pretty sure this is coming from the body. The
Mm.
body, life is clinging to the to to matter.
Mm.
Um, and it indeed it helps to lose. Well, I'm not really sure if I fear death, because I've seen what has happened after. What I think most people fear is the process of dying. To feel how life is leaving the body, especially if it's a longer process to degenerate, to get old, or to get hurt in an accident. I think this is more fearsome for most people than instant death. If I would say to you, well, you'll die with 95, best age, while having the best sex of your life, you wouldn't say, I fear death, or while running a marathon or whatever. Yeah? you wouldn't fear death. You fear the time before death.
Yeah,
Um,
natural. It's a natural thing. Yeah, and I think if you do persist in just meditation alone, let alone hermetics, you will probably come across some kind of experience that will confirm that transition. And I just want to throw it out there for the listeners that might have watched my show with Mog Morgan. This idea of a doorway that you see in the Egyptian culture, that you see expressed in the landscape where I'm from, the dolmen. This seems to be a key symbol in terms of communication with that realm of transition. I found that to be a reoccurring theme. But yeah, it's. I know what you mean about. I like that idea of the mind is okay with it, but the body fears it. I think that's quite universal. We could apply that to a lot of things. But yeah, great answer. So I'll move on to the next question, which is: do you think we are experiencing some kind of super occult revival at the moment in terms of accessibility via the internet, or is there just more noise?
more noise. There is no occult revival. Honestly, I don't think that there are more serious magicians than before, like for 30 years ago. I think that 30 years ago, the possibility to have serious magicians around was higher, because you had to delve deeper into the subject to get some serious information. And today it's so easy, and it's like it's on Instagram. It's superficially par excellence. Yeah, people are posting their pictures and how great their occult laboratories look like. Yeah, just like from a Harry Potter movie. And if you ask them, how's your exercise going? No, I don't do exercise. I don't know. My psychologist doesn't allow me. Blah. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a big occult revival. It's everything is more accessible, but if you're really looking at the numbers of serious magicians around, no, no.
Yeah.
And I see that, when the thing, at least here, I'm the thing I'm mostly called for are exorcisms.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I don't post my contact data on the internet or somewhere, but people stumble if they need. And so there are a lot of people, a lot of very normal people who have these magical experiences and fear them and don't know what to do with them, because no doctor, no psychologist, and no priest can help them. Because the church doesn't believe itself, does not believe in God anymore, or the spirits, or the devils. Psychologists think, oh yeah, you have some kind of schizophrenia, and doctors say, okay, whatever, take some aspirin or some drugs. There is a need for magicians. There is a strong need for magicians, and people does not serious ones, and people does not encounter those.
I've got if you'll permit me, just one story of my own here, because
Yeah.
it really relates. When you say about exorcism, a few years ago, someone contacted me on the internet. Oh, do you know about this stuff, etc. It was a family. I won't say where. I'll keep it as private as possible. But basically, they said that their house was haunted by evil spirits, and it was a bit of a conundrum, because it's like I have to help them. It feels wrong not to, and also it's an amazing test for me. And the funny thing is that this person's username, I'm sorry, this is just the truth. Their username was "fuck you." Yeah. So my first question was, are you serious with a name like that? But anyway, we persisted. We had correspondence over maybe a couple of months. And when we reached the end, they changed their username to very kind of you. You couldn't make that up, right? You couldn't, you could not make that up, so yeah, just a very bizarre situation there. Okay, well, obviously you said that you sort of moved away from being a Bardonian there in a sense, but I would still be interested in your answer to this question, which is, Mr. Franz Bardon, who was he really? Do you think he was sent by divine providence to deliver a very special book or three? Or was he simply a very gifted man who found his spiritual calling and achieved it par excellence?
I think that he was a very intelligent young man, Czech Republic, who did a lot of work. And this is in teaching, in working, and exercising. He really lived that stuff. He doesn't need to be sent by divine providence. I think that's a story made up by his probably lover and secretary Oti Votavova, who totally adored him. But the book does not need that. And this is not what he states himself. He says this book, he does not say this is written by the kind of, this is coming from divine providence, the one true system. No, this book is the outcome of 30 years of consistent practice and teachings and has been tested by my students. That's what he claims himself. This book and the very logical, and this is the very logical system, and that's what was always had this impact on me, not the claims by Votavova. There are so many people who claims to have the information from divine providence or God, like Mr. Muhammad, who wrote the Quran. No, this channeled information didn't interested me. This book is obviously made by someone who made it very much information available, who thought about a lot of exercises that were available on the continent for at least. And a lot of those exercises I know from other, especially German books and a few Czech books. Yeah, and the exercises themselves aren't special. Yeah, in the Anglophone world, they are not very well known because it seems that there was a gap in the occult scenes of the English American scene and the German, French, Czech scene. Yeah, there seems to be a kind of gap. They were approaching different ideas. But the exercises themselves weren't so special for continental magicians. But how they were ordered, in what order they were presented, with the thoughts behind that, with the whole impetus that he does not claim that we are talking about successful people but he's very clear he was making this for magicians. Yeah, the impetus for I'm writing here for magicians. This is about initiation. And if you want to come to initiation, which I define as connecting with the Godhead, then you must start at the beginning, not somewhere with some random exercise, but at the beginning. And then you progress step by step, and every step is the logical outcome of the step before. It's logical. Ron Clark, in his first commentary, he did also a very intelligent thing when he ordered the steps anew, all spirit steps, all soul steps, all body steps, and exercises simply in the correct order. And there you can see wonderfully how deep thought is. So if he was he sent by divine providence, I don't know, and to be honest, I don't care. Yeah. Maybe, maybe not. Whatever divine. He for sure wasn't the reincarnation of a million other teachers, like
Yeah.
indicated in Frabato. Yeah, I know enough of his life to be sure that he wasn't that. He was a human being. He had his problems and his topics and his children and wife and stuff. Yeah, like everybody else. But that does not stop him from being sent from divine providence, of course. As I said, when we consider, as long as we are in this human body, we stay human.
Mm.
But I don't want to diminish what he did by putting it on divine providence. I think to give him real credit means to give him the credit that he, by his work and teaching, study, capable of building that system. Yeah, that's not some, oh yeah, the divine providence and he himself's no better. No, I think that he was responsible for his deeds.
I think that's a good answer. And some of those sort of taller stories, they don't really help, you know. And I must admit, I was way more skeptical than I am now a few years ago, in my opinion, of Franz Bardon. It's certainly gone through the roof. But yeah, you know, stories of reincarnation, that kind of, I don't, not quite sure where they come from, to be honest, but they don't really help, but they don't change the book. The book works. So yeah, I appreciate your answer there. And you know what? We've actually answered all of the questions, which is amazing. Apart from one, which is, do you have any books, products, or services you would like to highlight before we finish? Closing the diary.
From myself.
Yeah, is there anything you would like to draw people's attention to? Any articles, writing, perhaps anything?
If you have questions, please read my blog. For those people who were waiting for a book of mine, well, it's to be honest, my dear readers, I'm very much appreciate that such of you always ask me that question. But I have to admit, at this moment in my life, I'm other concerns. Maybe there will follow a book sometime soon, but when I'm writing, I very much prefer to answer questions. I'm better in answering questions because I always learn from that. When someone asks me a question, mostly I'm not prepared. And so I have to think about my answer. And that's something when I learn a lot too. So if any one of you is hoping for more information about something that's bothering me, does not hesitate and write me. So when that I can formulate an answer. This will be the best way to get more text of me. I don't simply write anything on Facebook very much these days. Yeah, but if you ask me a concrete question, I will answer. And for those who wonder if they can become my pupils, because I also get that questions a lot. Yes, I'll take pupils and students, but to make it clear one and for all, I only teach in person. I don't teach via chat or via email or via anything, but only in person. So the people who are willing to come to me here in Germany, uh, to my nice hometown, will get education. But please don't write me million letters, million pages long emails and hope for answering. I don't have the time to write that long, uh, uh, that long educational purposes. Yeah. Yeah. That's the answer to two of the most frequently asked questions about what I can.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, at least you've had an opportunity to clear that up. You only take students in person, and please send me the link address to your blog. I'll include that in the in the content here. And
Oh yeah, please.
yeah, all that is left to say is thank you so much for your time. It's been fascinating. I believe we have created excellent content, but more importantly, it's been fascinating. And if we've learned anything today, perhaps it's to emulate Gandalf. So thank you, sir. It's been really wonderful to talk to you. Thank you, Crystalf.
Thank you very much for your time.
Take care.
Crystalf Maibach is a Hermetic magician in the tradition of Franz Bardon. He started the work of conscious self-transformation 30 years ago and is active in Bardon's opus and other Hermetic and magical traditions for over 15 years. Beside the Bardon work of self-transformation, his main focus lies in laboratory alchemy. He holds a master's degree in history and has written several articles concerning mainly alchemy and theurgy in different magazines. Currently, he lives and works in Germany. So there we have it. Crystalf Maibach, true gentleman, and I was about to say Bardonist, but perhaps we should exchange that for an Hermetic practitioner. I hope that you've managed to extract some wisdom from that conversation. I know that I have. And yeah, keep it real, keep it simple, keep it secret, keep it safe. Emulate Gandalf. Maybe steer clear of the Saruman thing. But let's face it, metal rules. And take care out there. See you for the next one. For those interested in beginning or perhaps refreshing Hermetic practice, please see the link below for Seshen Circle, Blue Bell Hill, an online group in said Hermetic development. Thank you so much.